Now time to wrap this in fleece. If you're not familiar with it, it's just basically sweatshirt material. This is going to get stretched over this, stapled and glued. I'll staple all the way around. That's why I did that rabbit. It comes in handy. This will get glued to here, stretched, glued to the bottom, and then fiberglass. And it will stretch. It stretches quite a bit, and you want this fairly tight on here, otherwise you'll have sags. So basically cut this in half. Now I usually start just on one side and then stretch all the way around, and then I go and staple this. I staple this last after it's stretched. That way it can stretch uniformly all the way across. Stretch. And you can see how it creates a contoured shape. And you want to make sure you pull it tight and pull all the wrinkles out of it. Because when you go to fiberglass this, if it's loose, this will sag. You kind of don't want that. This is the reason I wanted the speaker ring proud of everything else. Is that way this all contours to the speaker. I mix up some resin and start applying it to the fleece, going around all the contoured areas. This you can actually brush on, which makes it a little easier, unlike the mat where you can't brush it. And basically all you want to do is soak it. And the one thing you want to make sure you get real good are these edges. I won't apply any resin to the flat areas where the speaker goes because it will eventually get cut out. You want this to soak in enough to adhere to the wood that's below it. So you know, don't be stingy with your resin. Once the fleece is soaked in resin, I start adding fiberglass mat. And use the roller to get all the air bubbles out and create a good lamination between layers. I went ahead and added a total of 3 layers of fiberglass on here. But what I'm going to do now is, now that it's dried and it's cured, I'm going to go and trim this up, get this ready to cut out, sand, smooth it out, and then get ready for some body filler. I use my die grinder with a cutoff wheel and start trimming off all the rough areas around the edges of the enclosure. Then I move to trimming where the fleece is stapled to the trim ring. I've got everything roughly trimmed out. I switched out my cutoff wheel to an 80 grit sanding disc. I'll go ahead and start cleaning up the edges, getting this cleaned up, and getting this ready to come off. To remove the material around the speaker ring, I sand down through the fiberglass and fleece to the MDF ring. And there you have it. One rough sanded box. Now it's time to get the body filler out and make it smooth and ready to cover. Just gotta mix it up. Again, you mix this up in small batches, just like the fiberglass. Something you can work with in 5 to 10 minutes. You want to mix this until you get a good consistency of color, and it's going to be kind of that peach color. So I incorporate it by getting it all mixed in. You want to make sure it's mixed thoroughly. Okay. Try to spread the body filler in thin layers. It is easier to apply and easier to sand. Just take and you just spread it out. let it set up and dry for about 20 minutes. Then I used my palm sander with 80 grit sandpaper to smooth it out. Since I'm covering this enclosure in trunk liner carpet, I'm not worried about pinholes. However, I do want the surface to be smooth with no ridges, high spots, or low spots. The better the surface, the better the finished product will look, even with carpet. On the last couple of layers, I sand everything by hand. The contours turn out smoother and I can feel the low and high spots. Don't forget, the body filler will sand faster than the fiberglass, so take care not to sand too much. For the final layer, I mark the low spots with a pencil and apply another thin layer of filler to those areas. Once dry, I sand them down by hand until everything is smooth. It took a total of 4 layers to get it smooth to the touch. Got the box sanded, table cleared off. I'm going to install some binding posts. It's those right there. And this is going to connect my speaker wire up to the box. So just drill me a 3/16 hole for each one of these. I will take a piece of the carpet. This will go through it, and then this is going to go on, and then I'll put the washer and the nut. That'll create a good seal right here. All I do is take and put a very small little X where this will poke through. I am not actually going to put these in until I wrap it. This box is going to be flipped over and upside down and back. I don't want these to get damaged. Next is covering it. That's good. That's plenty. I'm going to spray this and spray this separately. I mean, this stuff it's tacked up already, and what that means is it's kind of dry to the touch, which don't let that fool you, because once it sticks to itself, it sticks. Make it easier. But what I want to do is take a couple of these. I just don't want that to touch this until I'm ready. That's what we're going to do. The reason I do this is so I can line it up where I want it before it's pressed down, because once you press this into place, it's pretty stuck. There's no pattern to this material. If you have a vinyl or something that's got a pattern to it, you want to make sure that you get it where you need it. Start in the middle, work your way out. So what I do is I'll fold this back. I'm going to take the two out of the middle. And the easiest thing to do is actually to start down here in these holes because of these steps. If you didn't have these steps, you wouldn't necessarily have to do this, but start down there. And that's where this tool comes in handy. It's got a round and then more of a blunt or a square, but you just put it in here and you just run it around. If you started here and then tried to do this, this would be stretched so tight it'd be difficult to do. So you do it in here first, then you can stretch all this out. I like to do the corners. I mean, different people do this differently, and a lot of it will depend on the type of material that you're using. But I try to go to the corners first, and then stretch away, and then work the wrinkles out. All right, see, I have a couple of little wrinkles right there. What I'm gonna do is take and just give it a little tug. Just stretch it. And then take this, stretch to that corner, and go around. And this is pressure glue, so if you rub, the more you rub and you get some heat on it, it sticks. Then the last corner here, pretty easy. Now let's do the back side. Cut the hole out for the speaker. Get the binding posts in there. I'm going to mount the speaker, at least get the holes drilled. Now I did get the binding posts in there. Y'all can see that. Just like that. Put some eyelets on here, soldered heat shrink, and we got the wiring. I got the ring. I went ahead and cut 2 chamfers on it. As you can see, one's a little bit deeper, one's a little shallow here, and that's just for an effect once it's on. The grill cloth doesn't roll on such a sharp edge. It looks better once it's in. This chamfer is to accommodate for the carpet. When it goes down inside that channel, it doesn't go square like the wood, it rounds. So I just cut a chamfer on it to give that relief there. Now I am going to paint it black. I'm going to use black grill cloth. The reason I paint this is because if you stretch grill cloth over this, there is a chance you could see this lighter color through the grill cloth. You paint it black, you don't see it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll get that done, and then we're going to go mount the box in the car. Got the box in here. Carpet's pretty close match. But I've got this cut out right here for my binding posts. Make sure that these are tight. You don't want them coming off, because then you got to pull this box back apart to get to it. I put some of this fabric over those wood squares where the bolts are going to go. That way it creates a nice seal. I got my polyfill, which is just basically doll stuffing. I will take just a kind of a handful of this and thin it out. I don't want it super thick. You know, I want it spread thin, just because, like I said, these boxes will tend to have a hollow sound, and this kind of deadens that a little bit. You don't want to pack it, you don't want to stuff it full. Just want it around the edges. If you want to glue it into place, you can. I usually don't. Friction usually holds it. The grill cover, you see the back of it. This is how I did it. Just stretched over and stapled, and then it's just a pressure fit in, and that's how it looks.